spoken of the killer app, and over the years we've had titles that can reinvigorate or even kickstart a platform. Space Invaders was such a title twice, first in the arcades and later the Atari VCS. In reality though, such games are merely a beginning, a signal of sorts to both developers and customers alike. With virtual reality now raising its game into a new generation with Sony's PSVR2, is Horizon Call of the Mountain a beacon of hope, or another VR cliffhanger? Right from the cinematic opening, you know this is a high-budget quality title from Sony Studios, developed in part by Guerrilla Studios with the lion's share entrusted to UK developer Firesprite, formed from the ashes of Psygnosis fame. Can you imagine? Who made a big impact on the PSVR's release with Playroom and later The Persistence, a roguelike survival horror. Here you meet Aloy but play as the misunderstood anti-hero Ryas, a handyman with machines, bows and rock faces, with of course the ability to talk to himself to excess. After an intro fit for a Transformers movie, you're set loose on the trail to victory, and although the path is winding, you do have some limited choice in just how you get there.
Call me Eat 'em in Shadow, kidnapper, traitor. The trail splits.
From a gameplay perspective, it follows closely to both third-person Horizon games. The character and view has changed, but like Aloy, you climb and jump around a great deal, talk, craft weapons and ammo, talk, loot boxes whilst talking, solve puzzles with or without talking, and of course fight robot dinosaurs of various sizes. All on a smaller, more confined scale, but most of the time you will follow a defined path with some branching routes of looting or ones you can return to later when the relevant equipment or skill has been unlocked. Throw in some good old-fashioned talking, this time to others about the shadow this and chosen that, and in my opinion, Horizon's story and character arcs are one of its weakest areas, and aside some minor gags, nothing here changes that. But none of that stops it being a fun and challenging game throughout my 8-ish hour play. The core aspects of climbing, crafting and combat break up throughout, but it does lean far too much on the climbing with some in-game moments like this. Oh, for the love of... Damn you, mountain! Stop calling me! The combat locks you on a circle rail, likely to reduce sickness or confusion, but I think adding in an open combat mode would be great, as it can be its weakest gameplay element at times on some encounters. As you strafe or dodge with the sticks and aim with your hands, it's all very natural, but the walking and turning speed are too slow, and it is where it would need to be faster. The climbing is superb though, with the ever-growing tools and skills creating the best moments in the game, with it actually being one of the best stealth sections in a game I've played, certainly in VR, as you can climb under, through and over along with hiding in waist-high grass. These sections never intrude for long enough and actually add a great deal to the title, along with the stunning visuals of the game that generally look like Horizon in VR, with the same world design, creature models and weapons. The fun factor of the sneaking missions were a standout for me, along with the fluid hand-over-hand climbing, changing tools, jumping and more, all gelled perfectly here. Some issues in control do crop up, most from orientation as you climb up and back on yourself and you can end up spinning around, and if seated this can become a little troublesome. The game has an auto-align option in the menu, but I actually found this worse. Instead, stand if you can, which largely resolves it, or if sitting and you start to twist, recenter your view with the options button on the Sense controller, which is a standard function in both PSVR and PSVR2 titles. This can then align you correctly for the next ascension. Also expect the same mild hand locking briefly into scenery at times, and also losing tracking for a few moments when your hands go behind the headset and out of view. These are always corrected very quickly when they did arise.
There. Can't walk in the life you can't see in the light, right?
The most immediate element that hits you as soon as the hood is lifted is the graphical quality on show here, instantly placing Call of the Mountain at the top tier of VR graphical quality. Character models, materials, volumetrics, draw distance, animation, polygonal density, and even physics are all a vast jump over PSVR titles, and in reality, a large portion of VR titles. The model of Aloy is a great example, with it sitting somewhere between the PS4 Pro and the PS5 versions of Forbidden West. Sure, some cutbacks on lighting, hair and such, largely production focus as she is not front and centre in the title, but as the 2D version you see here demonstrates, this generally looks like a PS5 title in VR, which it is, which was always the focus. The thing to take into account though is this is a first person view, and that puts greater demand on fidelity than a third person view, as you are often nose to surface in the game. And from workbenches, rock faces, robot dinosaurs and even ramshackled huts, they all offer excellent detail and fidelity. As a note for explanation, in VR all games have to render to unique viewports which are set to align with your left and right eye, needed for the depth perception of reality and 3D. Although some cost is shared, such as animation skinning, setup draws, etc., the CPU and more so the GPU and bandwidth do have a higher cost than a 2D game. With 2 camera views rasterized for the world render per frame, this puts far more demands on the PS5 hardware. As such, from my counts, the game targets a 2560 by 1440p output to the headset, which is 2020/40 per eye, and we're likely getting approximately 10% below that per eye in overall pixel density. Remember, these 2 images are combined in your eye, so you get double the amount of pixel counts I'm mentioning here. But the game also uses foveated rendering, which can align to eye tracking. You can turn this off in the menu, but I suggest you don't, as this does revert the foveated rendering, which doesn't get disabled, to now just be the outer edges of the viewports based on your head movements. Whereas with eye tracking on, only your periphery will have this reduced resolution, which makes it invisible when you're in the headset, which seems to drop close to 1080p levels here, but again with all these solutions it may go higher and lower, but the sharpness of the image and clarity offered in the game world, even up close, is very sharp, and the foveated rendering only aids that, with it being far more obvious but still subtle in the social capture you see here, which I believe is all based on the left eye feed of the PSVR2. Raising the quality even further is the excellent lighting, with its use of fog volumes used often, a signature look of Horizon. You get full volumetric clouds, light sampling through buildings, and mixed with bloom and screen space crepuscular rays does create a very stylish and moody look in the game. Lighting is baked here with no dynamic time of day as per the 2D game, but that does not stop various sunny days, low sun and snowy environments, giving you a great deal of variety throughout your adventure. Backing this up is a great use of cascaded shadow map quality that is mixed with screen space shadows and good ambient occlusion throughout. These are often mixed for contact shadows on objects or hands, or for adding depth into longer views where the cascaded shadow map would be cooled, which means the impressive vistas look full and grounded no matter how far away you are, with trees all casting shadows off into the distance. Torches can also be used to illuminate interiors, although these are not a core game mechanic. They do offer a level of lighting but no dynamic shadows. But pretty much all objects in the game, including those that can be interacted with and broken down, cast shadows from the sun. You can see general popping of object LOD at times, with the cascades coming in sooner at certain points and the blend to the highest quality detailed ones quite close at times, which can also be the cause of some minor performance stutter, but the team have promised a performance patch come day one to reduce or resolve these, as they generally look like memory or draw issues, but they often happen very briefly as you're entering a new section. Now, the talking sections allow you to see the facial animation quality and performance capture used here is as good as the full game, albeit you are fixed in place, effectively watching a private stage show. Some shadow aliasing and high levels of specular can crop up here due to the proximity of the characters, and one other visual issue is due to the game using asynchronous time warping for head movement to 120 Hz, which the headset runs at. The game's animation and logic run at 60 Hz, which can cause some ghosting or doubling of image in the headset, as each frame is interpolated or reprojected under lateral movement mostly. Now, it's not often something you'll notice, and you cannot see it in the capture here as that is 60 Hz, but on occasion it can be noticed, such as these crows flying overhead. But by and large, for a launch day title, this is a stunning level of detail, effects, quality and presentation that not only delivers the effects, feel and look of the rich Horizon world, but places you in the middle of it, and from that perspective it's hard to fault, and one you will use to show off how shiny and great your new PSVR2 is to all of your mates, and maybe even your wife, if you can convince her.
Great. Sparker.
Followed that Thunderjaw, and now it's following me.
Now, I often say that sound is 50% at least of the experience in games, and even movies, and here both the sound production and sheer variety is exquisite. From incidental ambient sounds such as your hands scuffing against various surfaces as you climb, the creaking of wood, crows in the distance, or just wind howling past, you always feel and hear the environment, which makes the escape that much more convincing. The 3D audio really pays off here when you can hear the distant roars of a dinosaur or the whoosh overhead as one comes in for the kill. The sound of monsters gearing up for a shot, the explosion of your bow, all adds much needed visceral impact to every moment in the game.
Finish it.
Even the sound of scanning robots as you attempt to sneak past is a highlight throughout that is matched with an adaptive soundtrack that adds a sense of calm tranquility when climbing to a pounding action theme when battling. As mentioned in my PSVR2 review, this is one title that greatly benefited from dropping the included earbuds which lacked the bass separation and general quality of the Pulse 3D or such headsets. You can use any USB wireless headset or analog ones, but I recommend using a beefier headset if you can. In addition, you can also just turn on your 7.1 amp, should you have one, to enhance the actual feel overall, but earphones are better and they never quite deliver the same being in the world feeling without them. The sound production is phenomenal and really does more than its fair share of delivering a memorable impact this game will have on you throughout.
Finished you. Right on top.
There they come.
Now, one final piece to touch on is the game's integration of physics, haptics and puzzles, which really fills me with hope in an area I have long since believed we've gone backwards in. It may not be the most integrated or involved interaction, but one that really sells this world is the fact that so much of it can be touched, moved and broken down. Some puzzles integrate logic and physics, which I'm a huge fan of, as the ability to block something by using real-world physics is a game changer in VR. Adding to this, in no small part, is the sense controllers and the helmet itself use of haptics. It's incredible. Pulling on a trigger will have various levels of resistance depending on the item used. Bashing a hammer against a gong or a mallet smashing through plates gives a small resonance that lets your hands feel what you see. A close shave gives a little vibe of the headset, as does being hit by an enemy, which was actually one area I thought the team could have raised a little in the vibrations, but this will always be on a user by user basis and you can turn it down or off. The interaction levels and physics simulation means that collision detection is high in the title, with objects not clipping through everything and being pushed back. Robots fall and collapse with weight, as do structures themselves. Ropes sag and pull and bend, grass moves out of your way, albeit in a limited set. And everything here feels very solid and real, and it's one of the reasons the title really stands out, and where VR is just completely game changing compared to 2D titles.
Smoke's up there ahead.
So, Call of the Mountain is what I would call a perfect launch title for new hardware. Easy to pick up, fluid and above all, fun. It not only manages to deliver an impressive and immersive first entry in this new platform, but it also becomes a beacon for developers and customers alike, as I alluded to at the start. On its own, it may not be the best VR game you have played, or even one that excels in any one area, but what it does so well is demonstrate what the hardware can deliver: better visual and audio quality of last generation in a fully realised, engaging world that will often have you stopping just to admire the view and take in all that beauty here. All the individual elements add up to one of the most impressive, immersive and tactile games I've played in VR. It's not at the level of VR highlights such as Half-Life Alyx or Boneworks, but it certainly demonstrates that the hardware and technology here in PSVR2 and actually could exceed everything I've ever enjoyed so far of Oculus Touch over the past 4 years, and I'm keen to see what is coming down the line. One of my personal favourites on the PSVR was Blood and Truth, which delivered the quality of much better PC hardware, albeit within a more limited traversal style. It was one of my entire highlights of the PSVR, bettered only by Astrobot Rescue off the top of my head. The Soho team are supposedly working on a new PSVR2 title, and as I've said before, if we can get a modern remake of The Getaway in VR with all the physics, haptics, sounds and car and foot travel, aligned with the set pieces they did so well in Blood and Truth, I may just have to take a lie down. For today though, Call of the Mountain is more a call to arms. It may be repetitive in places with some pacing issues on gameplay loop and certainly story beats, but as first party showcase launch titles go, I think Firesprite and Guerrilla have once again set a high bar indeed that will engage, enthrall and entertain you throughout, even if it will likely be forgotten once your library expands, with limited replay value here. It will be exciting though to watch as others move to topple it in the coming months ahead. And I hope you enjoyed that PSVR2 review. There's far more to come. If you haven't already, go and check out my PSVR2 review, which is up last week. I've got much more to come, and a video coming up tomorrow which will cover some of the biggest launch titles you can look forward to on the PSVR2, and maybe something in there catches your eye. But for now, I'm out, and remember, I am completely self-funded and completely independent. So if you can help, then please like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff down below, and I'll see you on the next one.